Hello friends, in this video we are going to talk about HTML containers. A container in HTML is simply an HTML element that we use to separate HTML contents on a web page or to group related contents on our page together. So there are many types of HTML containers we can use, from single paragraphs to entire sections, which we are going to see in this video. So the first and most common HTML container that we have is the paragraph container. It is defined using the P tag, which is a single letter P, and it is a tag which has an opening and closing tag. Now within our paragraph, or between the opening and closing paragraph tags, I can write some text or contents that I want to be identified as one paragraph of my web page. For example, I will give this paragraph some contents. So here I have simply said this is paragraph 1, and then I can copy this to create a second paragraph below, which I will do. And I will change paragraph 1 to paragraph 2. Now if I save this and we check our browser, we can see this is paragraph 1 and this is paragraph 2 are displayed with some line spacing in between them to show that they are two unique or two different parts of the web page, which are paragraphs to be precise. I misspelled paragraph here, so let me correct the spelling. Now if you go back to paragraph 1, I'm going to add another line to this paragraph. So you see I added a second line to paragraph 1 which says Elon is American, and since it was in the same paragraph as P1, it was displayed on the same line as the initial message for paragraph 1, whereas our paragraph 2 is still displayed below it as its paragraph on its own. Okay, so the next HTML container we are going to see is the div container. A div is a container that is used to separate contents similar to the paragraph, but it is a little smaller than the paragraph. What I mean is that the paragraph gives a much bigger space in separation between the contents as compared to the div. Divs can be used within paragraphs as they are not entire paragraphs on their own, but they are just used to separate contents on different lines, even if they are not entire paragraphs. So I can write within my P1 or within my first paragraph the second line which says Elon is American. I can write it within a div. I will say div to declare my div tag. It is written as div and it also has an opening and closing tag. I will then copy or cut this second sentence of my first paragraph and put it within my div. And if we save this, we are going to go back to see our result. We see this is paragraph 1. Our paragraph 1 has two separate lines for the two messages now. At first, Elon is American was on the same line with this is paragraph 1. But because we have separated it from the first line of the first paragraph using the div tag, they are on two different lines even if it is just within the same paragraph. The next HTML container we are going to see is the span. The span is a container which is usually contrasted with the div, and it is written as SPAN. It also has an opening and closing tag. Now the span is an HTML container that we use to separate contents but without moving to a next line. So that is the difference between the span and the div. With the div, the content which is separated from the other one in the div is going to be displayed on a new line, or is going to make the contents displayed on separate lines. But with the span, we can separate contents from other parts without having to move to a new line. Let's save this and check our browser to see how this will be. We see this is paragraph 1 and Elon is American are still displayed on the same line, even though we have separated the second sentence with a span container. Now this is mostly useful for when we want to separate this specific piece of content like this to maybe give it a different styling from the other parts of the same line or the same message. For example, I will give this a style by making the font color of this sentence to be red, without changing the color of the first sentence. So we see I've added a simple style to this pan element which changes its color to red. This has been done using some inline CSS. So I will check my result again, and we see this is paragraph 1 and Elon is American, but the sentence Elon is American has been displayed in red. Now the last HTML container we are going to see is the section container. So the section is a container that is used to group bigger parts of an entire page together. For example, we can have a set of different paragraphs or other elements that are related to some specific topic or are just related together. So we can do that using a section tag. It is bigger than a paragraph because a paragraph is just for a set of lines or a group of lines, but a section gathers contents that can be much broader. So I will do that, or I will create a section using the section tag. We write section in full and it has an opening and closing tag too. So within this section I can have a lot of different elements and contents that are about something or have something in common between them. The first thing I will do is add an H2 heading, which I'm going to write something within it as Lionel Messi. And after this I can have a paragraph that is talking about Messi too. So I will say P, and then inside the paragraph I will write a small message. I have written Messi is a football player, and then after my paragraph I can even add something like an image of the person we are talking about, Messi. I don't really have an image readily available to add right now, but in my src attribute I'm just going to give an image name. So we are assuming that I had an image called Messi.png, and then in the alt attribute I will simply say Messi, so that this should be displayed in the place of the image. And I will save this, and in my browser we see Lionel Messi is displayed as the heading, and then we have Messi is a football player and the Messi image. So this entire thing is what was considered as one section of our page, and we see that it has been separated from the first two paragraphs also. So guys, those are HTML containers. They are not all the containers that exist, but these are just the ones I consider most essential and which you are most likely to be using on a daily basis.